Welcome to the Drill Down, in-depth answers to oil questions. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears. I was very glad we could take off the Mother's Day week.
Well, we're glad you're back.
I am back.
And so I thought that for today's episode of the podcast, we should dedicate it to two of our favorite authors, F. Scott Fitzgerald and Lewis Carroll, for a couple of quotes that I think can set the stage for what we want to talk about today.
Are we going through the looking glass?
Well, close to that, yes. So F. Scott Fitzgerald, wrote The Great Gatsby and so forth.
I just read The Great Gatsby this winter. I reread it.
There you go. Well, you might have come across this thing. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function.
Who said that?
He wrote that.
In The Great Gatsby?
Yeah, he wrote that in another.
Because it was not in the Jay Gatsby thing.
And
But it's true. To be able to two opposing ideas
yes.
at one time and function.
And I'm sure all of our listeners are capable of doing that because this past week we've had two very different stories come across the newswire. One is that oil demand is rising, and oil prices, at least yesterday, touched $70 a barrel for a short while. So we've got...
Wait a minute. WTI?
No, Brent.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
Okay.
WTI
but you're right. Demand is strong.
Rising oil demand.
Strongering.
Absolutely. And at the same time, in fact, the very same day, the IEA, International Energy Agency, came out and said that under these projections of CO2 emission reductions by 2050, that we should stop exploring for oil and developing new fields. And because demand for oil will fall precipitously. And so here we are in the oil patch, rising oil demand in one story, forecasts of falling oil demand in the next story. Well, how do we retain the ability to function in all this, right?
Unlike most things in life, it is actually not possible for both of these to be true at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. So there is a timing element here, right? We can think, well, rising oil demand today.
Kind of like comedy.
Yeah, it's not what you say, it's when you say it. Yeah, so rising oil demand today, falling oil demand tomorrow. So there is a timing element, and that's a difference here. But there's still the question of, is one causing the other, for example?
Is rising demand...
No, the other way around. Think about it. If I expect that the world is going to use less oil and there will be less new development of fields and so forth, so I could anticipate that the day will soon be upon us when supply will be falling. And so wouldn't that cause people to bid up the price in advance of said
because I want to get what dwindling supplies are still out there.
I want to buy them now. Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened in, North Carolina and Tennessee and so forth when the Colonial Pipeline shut down. Everybody decided to top off their tanks.
All those Priuses that needed fuel had to come in there and get their 8 gallons of gas.
There you go.
Topped it off.
So there is an element of that. Now, probably that's not a factor in rising oil prices. It's a fact that the economies of the world are recovering pretty substantially, and the expectation is they're going to keep on that one.
I have my airplane ticket to France for September.
Yeah, there you go.
And home. I'll be returning home too.
The aviation industry is one of those that's expected to recover.
I got a thank you note from American Airlines.
I'm sure.
Thank you, Mr. Spears.
Come on in. So that gets me to my second point. So Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland, Behind the Looking Glass, and so forth. And one of the characters in those stories was the White Queen, who in that story was quoted as saying that she believed in as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast, right? And that came to my mind when I read in detail about the IEA study calling for this reduction in global oil consumption.
Are there 6 impossible things in it?
I mean, one of the things they're saying is that that no internal combustion engines, gasoline or diesel-powered cars, should be sold after the year 2035. Right.
I got 14 years.
Right. To
buy the last car.
The last one by 2030. So just 8 years from today. 60% of the new car sales should be electric vehicles. And we touched on about this.
Wow. Yeah.
A couple of podcasts ago, That basically is a 37% CAGR for EV sales.
Oh, that was almost your high case.
That is my high case.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we see in that circumstance demand for lithium just for car batteries rising by 15 to 20 fold from where it is today. So one impossible thing this forecast might ask us to believe is that we can get that much lithium.
Go get that.
And,
and with lithium is cobalt. With cobalt is copper.
Oh, yeah.
Each of those things has to be then by a factor of 20 per
substantially,
year,
yes.
right?
Well, yes, that's a CAGR of 35% per year. A CAGR over a 13-year period.
But if I'm going to project myself 15 years into the future, I'm digging holes for lithium and for copper and for cobalt 20 times more than I am today. And I'm digging a lot of holes today.
Yeah. So that's one of those items. The thing. The other
can't be bad for the environment.
Well, so the other one of the other sort of classified as impossible things to believe is that half of the emission reductions over the next 30 years are going to come from technologies not yet developed, right? So we're big banking a huge amount on undeveloped technologies. And we understand, all of us are aware that, hey, none of us had cell phones 20 years ago, and today everybody does, right? So there's clearly a capacity for technology to come rolling out. But
take the cell phone, for example. None of us had them,
right?
But they're the size of your hand,
yes,
and they wear out, pretty frequently, and everybody needs one.
Right.
But what we're talking about is something substantial that doesn't exist right now.
Right.
It's like deployed at scale,
around
the planet.
Oh yeah,
huge facilities
countries everywhere. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a big challenge, right? Then there's also the issue that we'll need 630 gigawatts of new solar generation, solar power plants per year, and wind power needs to be 390 gigawatts per year of installations. And which is 4 times where we are today. So
you're going to run out of space out in western Oklahoma.
Yes, and then you think about the high voltage power lines needed to carry that and the cost of all of this. So one of the other things is then all the dollars that are needed to replace the fossil fuels that we use today with these battery storage. So again, I think it's very useful to sort of keep in mind what believing 6 impossible things for breakfast, because I suspect that we'll hear a lot more about this in 6 months' time, in early November.
What happens then?
The worthies of the world are gathering in Glasgow, Scotland, and talking about this is the UN climate, the 26th UN climate summit, and countries will be gathering together to say, here's what each country intends to do to get us on this renewables path.
Do you think that there might be a chance that perhaps one person who's good at physics might be there?
Well,
just one.
It'd be tough. I mean,
a lonely voice in the wilderness.
It is interesting and informative at this point. So probably the thing I would look for the most in a gathering like that is the issue of EV sales and mandates to phase out internal combustion engines. So you see a lot, for example, in this recent IEA forecast, that 60% of the cars sold by 2030 are electric vehicles, 100% of them by 2035 are electric vehicles. There are a bunch of countries in Europe. There's the state of California, there's the province of British Columbia, all of which have their own mandates for phasing out internal combustion engine vehicles by 2030, or some of them in 2035, right?
And phasing out the purchase of them, or phasing them out?
For phasing out the purchase of them, the sale of them, right?
All right.
So those countries and states collectively represent, as I understand it, 13% of the global vehicle market.
Okay.
So we're talking about, in the plans that are just being produced, it says by 2030, 60% of global cars are electric vehicles. We have a bunch of countries, mostly Europe, a few in the states, provinces in North America, 13% of the global car market. So there's a lot to go.
They got to get the Okies. And the folks in Kansas, and the folks in
US
Missouri,
right.
and the folks in Arkansas.
And China and
not even, right. Let's not even mention Texas.
Yeah, right. So, yes. So there has to be, that's probably the key thing I would look at is how much commitment will there be, and this has to be a binding commitment, to get substantial portions of the car market to commit to opting out of internal combustion engine and car sales. So
you bought a car yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, last one, as it turned out.
The last. And then you didn't buy an EV, did you? It is not an EV.
Not for a while yet.
I saw parked out there. That was not one.
So we'll see how that all turns out. But I think that'll be the key thing to watch. And the other thing that comes to my mind in this UN climate summit that's coming up in November is that there's calls to stop financing new coal development. You can imagine that you want to get coal out of the picture so you don't have CO2 emissions. What's interesting is that on the oil side, they're saying, well, we shouldn't do new investment, any exploration for oil, new field investment.
So just let it dwindle what you've got.
But there wasn't the application of, let's stop financing that, because I think, most folks realize that the oil companies themselves would be the ones capable of financing that development. They don't necessarily need to go outside their company to obtain financing.
So the rule, not the rule, it's not even a mandate, it's not a rule, but the suggestion was just don't do it.
Right. Let's adopt a policy that says we're not going to finance.
Let's all hold hands and say we're not going to bully anybody.
Right. We're not going to finance coal development. But on the oil side, we have to encourage folks not to explore and
encourage their shareholders to not want a dividend.
It's a slightly different, because of the dependence in the coal industry on outside financing to develop mines and so forth, that there's this outside leverage that financial firms might provide.
You know what would be awesome is as they're digging up lithium, you have to move coal out of the way.
Can you find lithium at the bottom of a coal mine?
At the bottom of a coal mine. Just go and burn it, though.
Au contraire.
Oh, golly.
Anyway, that's what I have in mind for this week. Some things I think we need to keep ahead, keep in front of us, and look at, and maybe we can reconcile some of these different stories we're hearing in the marketplace.
Okay, is it time for the puzzler?
It is more than time for the puzzler.
Because the puzzler took a week off, but I've got a humdinger on this one, and it's about Katie Bewley, who is in charge of all of our client relations here.
Absolutely, yes.
And so if you ever call into our firm, and I'm looking at her through this glass wall, so she's going to be suitably appalled by this one. So this one's about what happened to Katie last week when she was out in West Texas.
Of course, yes.
Because as you and I know, and as Katie knows really well, part of what she does is she delivers our custom market research out to the drilling rig.
Yes.
And so Katie was driving her brand new Ford F250 dually out to a drilling rig outside of Crane, Texas.
Okay. Crane, Texas.
Last week from our operations base in Odessa.
Okay, yes.
And so Katie ran the custom market research out to the drilling rig out there near Crane. And it wasn't until she got back to the yard in Odessa, Texas, that she discovered that she had a nail in one of her tires, and it was completely flat.
Yes.
And it had been that way since the start of her drive out to Crane, Texas, to the drilling rig. But yet it had not affected her drive at all. So how is this possible?
Oh, there you go.
So if you think you know the answer to what happened to Katie out in her Ford F250 dually out to the drilling rig, email your answer to drilldownshow@gmail.com. And if we pick your right answer from the thousands of right answers that I'm sure we're going to get on this one, we'll read your name out loud next week on the program.
I'm looking forward to it already. Anyway, thanks so much for listening to this week's Drill Down Show. I'm John Spears.
And I'm Richard Spears.